Let's make a crochet steering wheel cover together. First, we'll begin with the supplies. We will need a crochet hook, and my preference is a 3.25 millimeter, a pair of scissors, a darning needle if you choose, elastic, and finally 100% cotton yarn. The cotton yarn I prefer is Crafter's Secret, which I purchased at Hobby Lobby. And you will need a variety of colors in whichever colors you choose. Again, the elastic, scissors, darning needle, and your 3.25 millimeter crochet hook. We begin by making 15 granny squares in the colors of your choice. And that is a preference that goes with your personality. They can all be one single color, they can be multicolored, whatever you choose. You can also do 13 granny squares and then just do rows of the granny square or double crochet stitch, just to add color and variety to it. And you'll see that on a couple of the other granny squares that will be featured at the end of this video. Also, what you will notice with the granny squares that I make is that I begin the granny square row with a chain 4, which constitutes a double crochet, chain 1 stitch, and then I do the 3 double crochet granny square stitch. I do that because when I get to the end, there is a hole there, which is the chain 1, where I can slip stitch and end at the middle of the corner, where I can begin another row there without having to slip stitch over, or I can just simply cut the yarn and tie it off. So I'll do a video of that at a later date. But again, let's measure this, and we are at 2.5 inches, and we're going to measure going in all directions just to make sure that we're accurate. Now let's count the squares to make sure that we have 15 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now that we have 14 squares, let's take our final square and attach it to both ends of the row to make a complete circle. We attach the squares by taking the corner of each square and attach them with a slip stitch, making sure that we are on the front side of each square. There is a front side where you can see the V stitches, and there is a back side. So we want to make sure that we are on the front so that all squares are matching and coordinated. Insert your hook into that corner stitch, slip stitch the corners together, and proceed with your granny square stitch in the same corner that you were previously working in. We are going to also make sure to connect the squares in each of the spaces between the granny square stitches, as shown in the video. Take your hook and enter into that space, slip stitch the granny squares together, and then proceed with your next granny square cluster in the space between the previous stitches. And we'll continue with that pattern all the way around the square until we have the entire section of granny squares connected and in a circular pattern. I'll complete the final edges of the granny square, and I'll join you when we get to that final edge so that we can join those corners together to complete our circle. We've reached the final edge. Let's get to the other end of our row so that we can attach that end and complete our circle. Flip it over and let's make sure that both edges are on the correct side, which is the front side of our work. Once that is established, we want to find the corner of the other granny square, and again we want to attach it with a slip stitch and continue with our granny square pattern, which is making 3 double crochet stitches in that same corner to complete our corner edge. And then we want to slip stitch in the space of the other granny square that we are attaching and continue with that pattern until we get to the end. Now that we've come to the end of our granny square attachment, we want to bind off, and then we want to just take a moment to look over a section of combined squares to make sure that everything is in decent order on the same side in the color coordination that we would like. And then we can proceed with single crocheting along the edge in any color coordination pattern that you would like. I am beginning with the darker color, and then I move to a softer pink, and then I end that final row with the darker burgundy color while attaching the elastic. We cut the elastic at approximately 42 to 43 inches, and we crochet single crochet stitches over the elastic as we're crocheting the edge, and pull it taut so that it will have a ruffled effect. We do that same procedure to the other edge so that both sides of the steering wheel cover will be pulled taut and have elastic, which will allow it to be held firmly to your steering wheel as you're driving. We've now come to the end of that row, so we're going to do our final stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the beginning single crochet, and then bind it off. Now we've come to my favorite part, tucking in all of the edges, making sure there are no scraggly pieces of yarn, and cutting all little frays and strays throughout our project. Now, I know you're saying, how can this fit my steering wheel? It's all scrunched up. It looks, yeah, how can this fit my steering wheel? Believe me, it can and it will. It's tightly bound and scrunched up because we need those edges to be tight, and it's going to be a little difficult to fit onto your steering wheel, but that will make sure that it's secure, it's not moving around, and it's just looking beautiful, and you're smiling as you're driving. Watch me. I'll show you in just a moment. See there? I know you didn't believe me, but I would never steer you wrong. No pun intended. But please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next tutorial.